All right, so here it is. I'm going to be just kind of debunking what somebody said about a verse in the Bible. Just if it was taken the wrong way and people were using the he for the wrong thing, it would just be just destroying all of grammar. It just just completely just nullify, destroy all of grammar. So what I want to do is take a look at a couple of sentences that use the same type of grammar. Then we'll look at the verses in question. So here we have a sentence. The family of the king is always held in high regard. He makes sure they are treated with kindness. So in this sentence, we have family as the subject, and is held is the verb. Always is the adverb modifying when, and we have another prepositional phrase over here. In regard, the first prepositional phrase is of the king. So of the king is describing families acting as an adjective, and in high regard is acting as an adverb showing how they're held, answers the question how. And over here we have he makes sure they are treated with kindness. He, being the subject of the second sentence, makes being the verb. So we'll just kind of stop right there and look at this he in question right here. So this the statement is a pronoun can never refer back to a prepositional phrase. So let me just grab a writing utensil over here. So he could never refer back to this prepositional phrase because it was said that that breaks all the rules of grammar. It's just not even possible. So you just know right there that he cannot be the king because of is a introductory word for prepositional phrase. So that just couldn't work. So what's being said is he would have to go back and modify something else. But there's nothing out here that is singular because we have a singular masculine pronoun and there's nothing else to refer to. So, whenever you're looking for the antecedent to a pronoun, what you use, the rule is basically you look for the most logical answer of who the antecedent could possibly be. And since he is a personal masculine pronoun, it can't refer back to family because family would be an it, not a he. So the only he in the context of these sentences would be the king. So we can see right here that we're not breaking all the rules of grammar, and even if it did break a rule, it's not all the rules, it'd be one rule. But we know that this cannot be so. We know this cannot be breaking the rules of grammar. So when we look at this sentence, the he is logically uh, pointing back to the king being the antecedent for the pronoun he. So now let's look at the Bible verse that's in question. All right. So we have two verses, Daniel 9:26 and 27. It says, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So here we have two sentences, very complex, compound style sentences, but nonetheless, we have a couple of sentences here. So in the first sentence, we see a Messiah, and that's singular. We see prince, which is singular. So those are the only two, singular people mentioned. The people would be similar to what family was. Up here, family would be an it, not a he. So you know right off the bat we have to rule out people. But this second sentence says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. So if we were to look at the grammatical form of the sentence, we need to find out who he is. There's a he here, there's a he here, there's a he here, and those he's have to point back to somebody. Now, one of the rules that's not a hard and fast rule is generally they point the pronoun will point back to the closest antecedent. Though that's not a hard and fast rule. That is a rule. And of course, the closest antecedent to he would be prince, even though it's in a prepositional phrase of the prince. It still can be an antecedent for a pronoun that comes later. Um, so, is it pointing back to Messiah? Or is it pointing back to Prince? Well, in the context of these two sentences, you can't be 100% sure because you have a Prince, you have a Messiah. So the he in these instances can actually point back to either the Prince or the Messiah. To just say that there's no way that he could point back to the Prince because the Prince is a prepositional phrase. You say that just can't even. This grammatically breaks all the rules. Well, no, that's actually not even true because there are many times when the antecedent of a pronoun is found within the prepositional phrase in the preceding sentence. You could probably come up with a million different examples of that on your own. So, in order to figure out who this he is, that's gonna cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, overspreading of abominations, make it desolate, consummation poured upon the desolate, whoever this is, and especially if it's linked with shall be with a flood, and the end of the war's desolations are determined. If there's any scripture verses that would cause us to see something like that happen, then I would say you know maybe maybe there's another answer to this question here. So I'm gonna pull a few more verses in, and we'll see if we can figure this out just really quickly. All right, so here we have Daniel 11:21. It says, "And in his state shall stand up a vile person," so we have a vile person, "to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And with the arms of a flood shall they be overflown." So we have a flood overflowing somebody, and down here we have a flood. The end thereof shall be with a flood. And then it goes on and says, "And he shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant." So someone's going to be broken, and it says that, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league made with him, he shall work deceitfully. So here it says, confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. So there's after league made with him, he shall work deceitfully. So someone made a league or a covenant with him, where he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. So we have the people of the prince. So it's not the people of the world over here, it's the people of the prince. We have the end of the flood, and we have someone confirming a covenant. Here we have somebody coming in that's a vile person who is, called the prince of the covenant. And here it says, oh, excuse me, it says here, the arms of a flood shall they be overthrown from before him. So there's the flood, and then the league made with him shall work deceitfully. So yeah, that seems deceitful when he confirms the covenant with many for a week, but in the midst of the covenant he shall cause sacrifice and oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate. So he makes a covenant, confirms. Another word for confirm is to establish. to establish, to confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Here he makes a league, but he works deceitfully, and he breaks that covenant. He breaks that league, and here we know it's in the midst of the week. So there's just a simple answer. We can go into more detail in follow-up videos, but for now, I would say that's enough to get us to see what's going on.